Why does a man suddenly go quiet? One moment, he's attentive, interested, emotionally present, and then, without warning, he pulls away. Messages slow down, calls stop, energy changes, and you're left staring at your phone, wondering what you did wrong. Here's the truth most women are never told. When a man ignores you, it's rarely because you failed, said the wrong thing, or weren't enough. Most of the time, it has very little to do with you, and everything to do with how men process emotions, pressure, and connection. Silence feels personal, but psychologically, it usually isn't. What makes ignoring so painful is not the behavior itself, it's the uncertainty, the not knowing, the open loop your mind can't close. Your brain tries to fill the gap with self-blame, fear, and worst-case scenarios. This is not weakness. This is biology. Humans are wired to seek reassurance and consistency in attachment. Silence triggers the nervous system. But male psychology works differently. Men are taught, often unconsciously, that emotional control equals strength. Independence equals safety. When emotions become intense, even positive ones, many men experience internal pressure, and pressure makes them retreat. So the first thing you need to understand is this. Ignoring is often a coping mechanism, not a strategy. When feelings deepen, a woman's instinct is usually to move closer, to connect, to talk, to clarify. A man's instinct, in contrast, is often to create space, not because he doesn't care, but because space helps him regulate. This is why ignoring frequently happens after intimacy, after vulnerability, after emotional closeness, after something meaningful. From the outside, it feels like rejection. From the inside, it feels like self-preservation. Men need distance to process emotions, the same way women need connection. Another layer of male psychology is control. For many men, control is not about dominance over others. It's about control over themselves. When a man feels emotionally activated, especially if it happens quickly, he may fear losing that internal control. Silence becomes a way to slow things down. This is also why ignoring can happen even when a man is genuinely interested. Attraction alone does not equal emotional readiness. Now let's talk about power dynamics, because this is where things get uncomfortable, but necessary. Attention is power. The person who reacts less often sets the emotional pace. When a man senses that a woman is emotionally invested, waiting, watching, adjusting her behavior, some men instinctively pull back to restore balance. Not to punish her, not to manipulate, but to reassert internal equilibrium. This doesn't mean you should play games or act cold. It means that emotional self-control is deeply attractive to men. Desire grows in space, not in pressure. Another reason men ignore is testing. Men don't always test attraction verbally. They test it through distance. When he pulls away, part of him is observing how you respond. Do you panic? Do you chase? Do you over-explain? Or do you remain emotionally stable? Your reaction teaches him how safe you are to be with emotionally. Many women believe that expressing feelings immediately creates closeness. In male psychology, premature emotional intensity often creates pressure, and pressure shuts men down. Calm creates safety, safety creates attraction. Now let's address something important. Not all ignoring is the same. There is a difference between a temporary withdrawal and emotional unavailability. A man who pulls back briefly, but returns with clarity, effort, and presence, is very different from a man who consistently disappears, avoids responsibility, and leaves you in confusion. Consistency over time matters more than intensity in the moment. Sometimes ignoring is a sign of avoidant attachment. These men crave connection, but fear dependence. They want closeness, but panic when it feels real. So they oscillate, pulling you in, then pushing you away. Silence becomes part of the cycle. And here's where many women get trapped. They personalize avoidant behavior. They believe if they explain better, love harder, or stay patient longer, the man will change. But attachment styles are not fixed by reassurance. They are revealed by behavior. A man who is emotionally available does not need you to chase him into connection. Now, let's be honest. Sometimes a man ignores because he is not choosing you. And this is the hardest truth, but also the most freeing one. Not every man who shows interest is capable of sustaining connection. Not every attraction leads to alignment. When a man repeatedly ignores you, avoids depth, and offers inconsistency, that is information, not about your worth, but about his capacity. Your value does not decrease because someone cannot meet you emotionally. The mistake many women make is trying to extract certainty from uncertainty. They ask for explanations too early. They seek reassurance instead of observation. But clarity doesn't come from forcing conversation. It comes from watching behavior over time. Silence reveals character faster than words ever will. So what should you actually do when a man ignores you? First, pause. Do nothing emotionally impulsive. Silence is not an emergency. It does not require immediate action. Second, regulate yourself before responding. Your nervous system wants resolution, but reacting from anxiety only reinforces imbalance. Third, stay consistent in who you are. Don't become colder to punish. Don't become warmer to compensate. Emotional consistency builds trust. Fourth, redirect your focus back to your life, not as a tactic, as a truth. Men feel when a woman is centered in herself, even through absence. Here's a paradox many women don't expect. When you stop reacting to silence, you often regain attraction, not because you manipulated anything, but because you removed pressure. Now let's talk about texting, because this is where most anxiety lives. Texting is not connection, it's communication. Men bond through shared experiences, not constant messaging. A man can care deeply and still communicate sporadically. Judging interests solely by texting frequency is misleading. What matters is effort when it counts. Does he follow through? Does he show up? Does he invest in real interaction? A slow reply does not equal low interest, but consistent lack of effort always does. Another important psychological point: men compartmentalize. Stress, work pressure, financial responsibility, internal struggles. Many men withdraw rather than talk. Silence becomes their coping mechanism. This doesn't excuse emotional neglect, but it explains behavior. Healthy masculinity is not about never pulling away. It's about returning with clarity. Now let's address your reaction, because this is where your power actually is. The way you respond to being ignored shapes the entire dynamic. Chasing creates imbalance. Over-explaining creates pressure. Emotional collapse creates instability. Grounded presence creates respect. Confidence is quiet. Desperation is loud. When you remain calm in the face of silence, you communicate self-worth. You show that your emotional world does not revolve around someone else's availability, and that energy is magnetic. Here's something most people won't tell you. Silence can be a gift. It removes illusion. It shows you who someone is without the distraction of words. A man who values you will not leave you guessing for long. Temporary space is normal, chronic confusion is not. So instead of asking, why is he ignoring me? Ask something more powerful. Is this dynamic meeting my emotional needs? Because the goal is not to be chosen by someone who cannot choose consistently. The goal is alignment. When you stop fearing silence, you stop abandoning yourself to keep someone else close. And that's where everything changes. The right man does not require you to prove your worth through patience, pain, or persistence. He meets you where you are. He communicates. He returns. And the wrong one filters himself out through distance. Silence doesn't mean you are losing. Sometimes it means you are finally seeing clearly. And clarity is always power.